Hey everyone, this is Phil from The Cubicle, and I'm here to do a product overview for the new YJ SuLong 3x3. I already recorded my first impressions of this cube in another video, so I'll link that video to you guys in the description so you can take a look at what I initially thought of this cube. Of course, I already stickered it. The cube looks like this when you get it out of the box. This is a YJ, but it looks exactly the same, just the sticker shades. And of course, the pieces are very different on the inside. Just a quick recap of what I thought. The cube, definitely it had more turning resistance than other 3x3s I felt out of the box, but the corner cutting was pretty good, and it was lubed internally with some factory preset lube, and that made the cube move pretty well. So all in all, I was very impressed by how the cube just felt directly out of the box. It's not like those really dry Zanchis or Guhongs where you have to really lube the cube in order to use it. This cube is usable out of the box, and it was very impressive from the start. So what I did was I lubed, tensioned, and broke in this cube with some solves, and now I'm going to do a product overview of how this cube performs after you take care of it. So let's get started with the mechanism. Alright, so let's take a look at the mechanism of this puzzle. What I'm going to do is open it up and show you the pieces. So let's take a look on the inside first. It's got that blue core and a very, very typical screw spring structure. The core is very basic. It's not like a FangShi core or a Gans puzzle core. It's what cores looked like ever since, I guess, cores were out in production. So it's a very, very standard core, and you can notice that the pieces are very fat and blocky, and this kind of reminds me of the Shengshou Aurora, just a very simple design. You can see this edge piece. I actually have an Aurora edge piece, and of course they're different, like the Aurora has tracks, but the similarity here is, both of these pieces are very, very blocky. And same with the corner piece. This is the SuLong corner piece, and the Aurora corner piece. It's one big piece of plastic, just a block. And of course it's very simple, and very interesting to see a cube that performs really well that's simple. And so the pieces fit together like this, the edge piece against the corner piece. You can see that the edge piece has this extra tab that locks against the corner piece and acts as a torpedo structure here. But what's really interesting is that the tabs don't extend very, very far. And I kind of wish they did, because that would, I guess, make the cube slightly more pop resistant. You can already tell that these tabs, although I think they do something, they don't do that much, because I can easily just take the piece out without having to twist that much or, really force the cube in. It just comes out. So it's kind of wish the tab was longer, but the tab is still there to prevent popping. If you set the cube reasonably tight, it'll do its job. So also the corner piece is really easy to take out. It's not like the Aurora where you can dangle the cube like this and pull and not have the corner piece come out. So the space is also, feel like it's smaller and it's easier to take out. And let's take a look at the centerpiece. The centerpiece is round here, and it's a very, very simple centerpiece. And yeah, there's really nothing to be said about the centerpiece. This is center cap. It's also very, very standard, and there are two grooves on each side, so you can easily take out the piece. And what's really good about this type of design with the blocky pieces is that the lube will coat the pieces really well. If you have pieces with elevation or a lot of angles, sometimes you'll have to manually lube everything and not have so much ease when you distribute the lube inside the puzzle. So when the puzzle pieces are very blocky and straightforward, it's very easy for the lube to distribute. If you just drop a little lube in the puzzle and you play around with it, the cube will disperse the lube, and the lube will be everywhere, and it'll coat the pieces. So all in all, a very simple design, but it performs very, very well. So in the next segment, we're going to take a look at exactly what it can do and what it looks like when it moves. Alright, so let's take a look at how this cube performs after lubing. So What I did was I lubed the core with Maru Axis Lube, which is this new lube on our shelf. It's made by Maru, and it's in the same kind of capsule as the original Maru lube. So it's kind of like a thick oil I put on the core, and then I put weight 2 on the pieces. And so now it moves much easier than when I took it out of the box. When I took it out of the box, it was quite heavy, and it resisted my turning quite strongly, and now I can move it pretty easily. So there are, a few lockups. I think if you try to reverse cut too much, the cube will complain by clacking loudly. And, of course, if you overturn and you try to force the next turn into it, the cube will also complain by locking up. But aside from that, if you turn reasonably accurately, this cube doesn't really have any issues as far as I know. The tensioning was a bit tricky for this cube because I felt if I tensioned it really tight, it would resist my turning a lot, and it would be, I'd get tired after like 20 solves, which should never happen if you're a cuber and you do lots of solves. And if it was really, really loose, I felt like, I had a popping issue and a corner twisting issue. The corners twist pretty easily if your cube is light. And of course the pieces pop if the cube is really light. And if you tension it really light, sometimes the torpedo structure won't prevent the popping because, as I pointed out earlier, the torpedo is actually very stubby and short, so there's not really that much torpedo, so it doesn't lock in the piece too safely if you are, if you keep the cube at a very loose tension. So finding a good balance between turning resistance and speed is really important when you try to tension and maintain this cube. I really recommend tightening it as much as possible and then start gradually loosening it until you're at a point where you don't get tired doing solves on it. Then you have a good balance between its stability and also all the corner cutting and flexibility it gives you. So speaking of corner cutting, let's try some. Of course, this goes line to line like this. Let's try half a piece, yes, and half a center piece reverse, more than half a center piece reverse, and of course like something really, really greedy and unreasonable won't work. You'll see that the fat corner piece, which is like a solid blocky piece, will refuse to traverse the rather straight part of the centerpiece. So it does have its limits, but of course if you turn reasonably accurate, there's no reason why you can't enjoy this cube, because it will move for you if you turn accurately. And the M slice is also cut reasonably well. No, that's not going to work. But as you can see, it's a very, very solid cube. And again, it's one of those cubes that has a really, really simple design, but at the same time, it performs really well like, any other modern speed cube should. Now, just a few comparisons. When I was tuning this cube up and playing with it, it really felt like an F2 and has this kind of bubbly feeling. But when I had it tight, it kind of felt like a FangShi ShuangRen V1. It was really interesting how this cube kind of embodies the characteristics of two previous cubes, and I felt that was really interesting. But of course, this cube is its own cube, and if I picked up this cube in a pile of other cubes, I'd for sure be able to tell that this is the YJ SuLong. So now let's take a look at some recommendations. Alright, so let's talk about who this cube is for. Now obviously the feeling of this cube will definitely factor into whether you want to try it or not. It's kind of resistant to your turning, not so much if you tension it to like a medium sort of tension, but of course it'll always retain its kind of crispy and crunchy feel. So if you're into that kind of crispy, crunchy, and slightly even bubbly feel like an F2, you'll really like this cube. This is actually kind of like an F2 with torpedoes, of course, so it's a little bit safer. And so if you like that kind of feeling, this cube will definitely make you happy. And of course, this cube is 56 millimeters, so for people that like smaller cubes or people that do OH and have smaller hands, will probably consider this cube as their OH cube or their two-handed cube if they like smaller cubes in general. And of course, we're not going to ignore the $6 price tag. the $6 price tag makes the cube very affordable, and it makes the cube very easy to sample. You can just buy one without having to worry about sinking too much money into a cube that you haven't felt. So I think that's a really interesting aspect of the cube. It provides everything that other modern speed cubes provide, but it's very affordable, so you can afford to try it out without feeling too guilty or scared about spending your money. So that's pretty much it for recommendations. This cube is a very, very good cube in general, and so people that just want more 3x3s, you can buy them in bulk, clubs, schools, 3x3 enthusiasts, collectors, and if you're looking for a main 3x3, this is definitely a consideration because it's a very solid cube and there are no big glaring weaknesses. All right, so let's end with some closing thoughts. YJ is the company that made this puzzle. Of course, YJ also makes Moyu, and this puzzle was branded as YJ instead of Moyu. I think personally Moyu, maybe the company wanted to associate Moyu with higher end cubes, and I'm kind of curious as to why they didn't make this a Moyu cube, because this cube is definitely pretty high quality, and I was actually personally very skeptical when I first heard of the cube. $6, like, come on, what is this? And that's because YJ has a history of producing, puzzles of a wide variety of quality. Some of the puzzles are really nice, and some of the puzzles aren't too great. So, very, very wide variety of quality, and even puzzles. They make a lot of puzzles. And of course, the Moyu cubes, the Huanying and the Weilong, are both very excellent. So, on one end, there's that history of YJ, and on the other, there's the recent cubes that come out are really good. So what's going to happen with this cube? So I was very curious, very skeptical at the same time, but also very optimistic, because this cube directly came after the Weilong, and the Weilong was pretty successful. So, really didn't know what to expect, and when I first opened it, I was very impressed and very surprised because the cube actually performed really well out of the box. It's very low maintenance, and of course I'm the type of guy that just loops every puzzle I get, so I got to see how the cube changed, and it definitely changed in a positive way. It now moves easier, and I can actually use this as one of the 3x3s I actively practice with. I got a bunch of 3x3s recently and only one sticker set, and I chose to put the stickers on this cube because I actually like this cube best out of the Weilong and the FangShi ShuangRen V2. So of course, that's just my personal opinion, but personally as a cuber, I think this cube is pretty successful, and hope everyone else likes it if they try this puzzle. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything you want to talk about regarding this puzzle or anything else, feel free to contact us by email, YouTube, Facebook, or speed solving. And the only thing I have left now is some sample solves. So I will see you again in the next video. Let's take a look at 2 sample solves.